Welcome back on CMTV. Welcome back, dear viewers of Pivotal Issues. We are glad that you're there. But before we go to the topics to be discussed, we want to read a few messages before we continue. This one says, Sir, good evening. Please, is there any information about the release of Wazizi's corpse for burial? I am Ernest in Limbe. Well, for that, there are some legal procedures that are still ongoing. And when the program will be out, you will be informed every minute by minute or maybe doings that will be taking place. You'll be informed as far as we are concerned in this house. So no information as at now. But watch the program every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays so that you can be updated as far as Wazizi's corpse is concerned. This one says, I am an artist based in Moliko. Wazizi was a great guy and he did so much for Buea. We should stop all this blah 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 that will lead to nothing in this Cameroon. As usual, please, I want to support his family. Is there any person or Momo we can send our little support to his family? Well, I did announce that we are planning for that so that we can support the family, especially, he left a child and a wife, and their situation, he was the breadwinner of the family as a whole. So I did announce that, and so we don't just want to come on air with a premature program. We want to plan very well. So you are told to always watch the program every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, as from between 6 and 7 p.m., so that you get the details about the program and what we shall be doing for the family so that you partake. We want to thank you so very much for the concern. To come to our first topic for the day, let's just take one again. Let's just take one of the text messages. This one says, the death of Wazizi is a clear indication that Cameroonians are not free even in their own soil. Will not affect even their own soil, will not affect the psychology the youth who are a witness to this. We want a better Cameroon for our children. It's Julius from Buea. Well, Julius was just commenting that we should cry for a better Cameroon for our children, even us the youths nowadays, and a better Cameroon as a general. We can see that everybody is crying for the death of Wazizi, but we pray God his soul will rest in the bosom of the Lord. Okay, we come now to the educational system. I want to begin with you. You are a teacher, and you started teaching from basic, secondary, now you teach in the higher institution. When we talk of subvention, normally the government usually gives subvention to schools, especially to secondary and basic education. But now, this year, we see that the amount given is just more than what has been given in the past, 6.5 billion francs. What do you think facilitated this?
Is the issue the COVID-19 has a lot of implications for this, Mr. Williams. I want to say that the dreadful COVID-19 that started in Cameroon more than 3 years back, many teachers have lost their jobs. Many teachers in the private sectors have lost their jobs. They are not paid by their school proprietors. And I know that most of them don't have good salaries even, and they have been working seriously, and most of their salaries, especially in Presbyterian schools and other mission schools, were slashed. So life became so difficult, so painful psychologically for these people to mediate and also help meet up their parenthood activities and livelihood activities. So the President of the Republic proclaimed that 6.5 billion will be given to these schools. And I think that, let's be honest, once in a while, I think that it's a good initiative that President Paul Biya has done. But we can see that it's as a result of this dreadful pandemic, COVID-19. I think that it has affected many lay private schools in the country. And many lay private schools in the country have not been paid by school proprietors because they feel that many students have not paid their school fees and they don't have the resources to meet up to the needs of this school. They don't have enough money, enough fund, because for schools to operate in this funding, schools can only operate when there's funding. And I think that this money that President Paul Biya has given can help most of these lay private schools. And it can only help these lay private schools if the money will be judiciously used. And I feel that the money has been given. And who are those to receive the money? That's a question. And what type of schools are supposed to receive the money? And what is the money being received for? We should know why President Paul Biya is giving the money. Is the money to repair schools, or to reconstruct schools, or to pay workers, or to manage, or for school management? Because we have to talk of school management. School management also becomes very important. School administration and school management becomes very important because they need resources. They do not need only human resources. They also need financial resources. And we used to know how this money will be distributed to all the schools in Cameroon. It's a huge sum of money because we are talking of issues of mismanagement, because we know of cases that school principals, delegates can also receive such monies, and we see issues of mismanagement. We think that if these monies are well used by the school heads, and salaries of these workers of these teachers are paid, and money is being pumped for the well-being of the schools, because we know of schools that don't have infrastructures. We know of schools in this country. There are schools in Cameroon today that don't even have benches and desks for students to sit. There are schools in Cameroon that doesn't have buildings. Students are learning outside of the school. There are schools in the northwest and southwest where students are not even going to schools. You know of schools that are already bushy, that no schools are not going on. I don't know. So I don't know whether this money will be given back to urban schools, especially in the northwest and the southwest, because most rural schools are not functional. So we think that if this money is judiciously used for the needs of the schools, it will be a good thing, because most schools, most teachers, especially in the lay privates, they pay them 30,000 francs. They pay some 60,000 francs. That's not money to pay a worker for a month. I think that most teachers are being exploited a lot by school proprietors. And I feel that they were not paid for these 3 months, and it's been very difficult for them to manage and run their school.
And some more than 3 months.
Some more than 3 months, and some have even lost their jobs. Yeah. There are many teachers who have lost their jobs because of COVID-19, because the school proprietor couldn't pay for salaries. And I think that we must respect teachers. Teachers matters a lot in life. There are people in society that must be respected, especially primary school teachers. And I feel that primary school teachers have been neglected in this country a lot, because that's when the pillar of education starts. And I feel that this money should be used to cater for the needs of these primary school teachers. Is very important, and for infrastructure of this and resources of these schools. We know of schools that don't even have libraries. We know of schools that are empty, no didactic materials. So I feel that this money, if judiciously used, it can help facilitate the academic year. And if academic year is coming to an end, especially the Minister of Secondary Education mentioned that she has updated the time for the writing of the GCE. And I feel that if such money is given, it can also help to boost the morale of some of these lay private schools. And I want to end by saying here that despite the fact that many a times we kick against the head of state, this is a positive initiative brought up by the President of the Republic, President Paul Biya. But I still feel that there will be issues of mismanagement, there will be issue of corruption. So we should stand against corruption and mismanagement of school funds in this country, because schools can effectively work when they effectively go through efficiently when there's funding. And funding in schools are very important, especially in the lay private. But I know that it's the responsibility of the government to always provide subventions for school, because school needs subventions to function, especially private schools that are duly registered. Because we know of schools that are functioning that are not duly registered. So schools that are duly registered will benefit from the largesse of such money. And I think that school heads and big administrators in primary, secondary, and higher education, they should manage the funds judiciously and efficiently for better nation building.
Yeah, dear viewers, unfortunately we invited some people in the call, but you know, as it is, some people usually refuse to appear when such things come up, especially those who man the offices, the state offices, who should have given us some other insights on how they are going, but we found out some other things that we are going to discuss here. And so on this, we are going to discuss on two phases. There's some generalities on this subvention, and given that some schools are in some kind of chaotic situation, especially the Catholic University Institute of the Diocese of Buea and the Presbyterian schools. So first of all, we shall be looking at some generalities. I'll come to you, Mr. Ngoh. We have situations where when these subventions come like this, there's always problems in school, because normally these subventions, as part is supposed to go to the teachers, especially those of the private sector, I mean to say. Part is supposed to go to the teachers, but when it comes, the teachers are not even aware. At times, the proprietor go collect. Another point is there are some schools that, just as he said, they are just on papers. They don't exist. But before you realize, maybe on social media or whatsoever, you realize that they have collected 2 million and above 5 million when the schools are not operating. What's your take about that?
My take is that I will not follow you. Okay? And secondly, I want to distance myself from the previous panelists. Yeah. When he was calling that we should be thanking Mr. Bia for.
But you have to thank him.
I thought I was wrong.
No, but you should say what you are about to
say. Yeah,
it
is his opinion. It's just
yes, this time.
Yes,
not my opinion. It's a fallacy to me.
Yes, go on, please.
Am I safe?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We don't have to thank Mr. Bia for anything.
Okay.
The communique that was produced by the Ministry of Secondary Education, Dr. Nalova Lyonga, cited that this money was allocated in the 2018-2019 budget.
Okay.
So from that perspective, it is money that was already projected for a particular activity. Why are we thanking Mr. Bia?
Maybe given that with the situation in Cameroon, but he still tries to satisfy all ends.
I'm driving something.
Yeah.
2, this money is allocated for a particular sector. Okay. If it was meant for all the educational sector, all the ministry will have come together and give a joint communique.
Okay.
But now that it has been cited to the Ministry of Secondary Education, it means that
no, lay private. Lay private is both.
Primary,
yes. Yeah.
You take it the way you want to take it.
Okay, okay.
I still want to insist. If it was something that has to do with the Ministry of Basic Education,
okay.
The Minister of Basic Education was supposed to be associated to the communique. Government has a way it functions, and the protocol goes that way. When they wanted to talk about the COVID-19 school resumption, all the 3 ministers came on the table because all the level were going back to school. So I want us to be methodic in the way we talk. So from that perspective, it is money that was projected for something and it's been disbursed.
Yeah.
The management of that money now is another ballroom. It is coming unprecedented. That is why I can join my learned panelists with the presence of COVID-19 lockdown. And so the realities are a bit different this year. But on the regret to already tell some teachers that are already promising their wives that they will not receive a kobo. No, I'm not a soothsayer to make this kind of declaration on air.
Yeah.
Some are under schools that are not known by the government. I spent some time in Yaoundé. There are a lot of evening classes in Yaoundé that function on individual basis.
Yeah.
Some people are in Yaoundé teaching only in those evening classes to meet end meets. Since the outbreak of COVID-19 lockdown, they have not been receiving a kobo. And some are suffering that maybe since the money is huge, they will likely have something out of it. I'm sorry to tell them that you will not have a kobo. Secondly, there are about 4 big institutions in Cameroon. I have had to, from 2014 to 2016, work with Oxford University Press. And so I have an idea on how government subvention is used in secondary schools. Previously, I don't know whether it's still updates, but the denominational schools and lay private have consignment of books, didactic material that they take on loan from suppliers. When I talk Oxford University Press, you could have Cambridge, you have LD Didactic in Germany. There are so many of them that supply all the tools you see they use in secondary schools.
Yeah.
That money, when this money comes, that's the money they use to pay. When you see even book writers, they write and they submit to school. Most of them, I know one of them, let me for courtesy purpose, Sama Mungwa. He always said, I have supplied book, I have not yet paid. They are waiting for this money. I don't know whether you are getting me. So that money, a big chunk of it is going to go to settle some of those debts. So at the end of the day, the money that will go to pay the arrears to teacher might not be as much as we want to, as voluminous as we want to make it appear here. Without talking about bottleneck, we are not more talking about the new Cameroon. And so a good chunk will be swallowed by the administrator themselves. And don't forget, any information that comes amidst COVID-19 has 2 intentions. The first one is to nurse hope. The second one is also to compare with other countries. That okay, and that is why I don't blame the previous panelist, doctor, for asking us to support to congratulate Mr. Pobia, because even the minister release pointed out, the second to the last paragraph pointed out that we should thank, and when you read, you want to look for the cohesion in what she is saying. You see that she forcefully brought in the gratitude she is calling for Mr. Bia, because once you have cited that it was part of something, it was just his responsibility. Now we are just talking at the moment when the June session of the parliament is ongoing, and one of the key issues that were highlighted during the opening statement of both spokesperson of the houses said they have to review, they have to reduce the budget that was estimated. It means that at least most of the money that were projected to be used to be spent this year has not been spent. I want to take a single case. There might be so many others. The 20th May celebration. Most of the time, it has more than 5 billion allocated for that event. If you want to doubt me,
far more than 5 billion. Yes,
yeah,
far.
Good. If Mr. Bia can use 4 billion just for wine to receive people
at the
presidency, how much of this? So you want to believe that all this money that were packed together were not used, and so it's but normal that they should share a bit and give to the schools. Now that some denominational school like the PCC took upon themselves to slash teacher's salary up to 50%. Now that that money has come, it is but normal that we call on the authority that Reverend Funky Samuel, who is currently minding the affairs in that denomination. He should, by obligation, and I talk here with authority, make available that money to the teachers, which for most, I'm talking because my sister is married to one of her husband. He works under the denominational school. I might not cite it here for publicity reasons. And most of them work on the basis that part of their compensation will be done on heaven. What if heaven does not exist? So it is by urgency that we are asking him that he should re-establish those teachers into their rights. Because even civil servants, we have one on the platform, if he argued that his salary has not been passing, then I would start watching, they should slash that money. Civil servant money has been passing throughout this while. So I just wanted to cite that little case. There might be so many other spreads, but that is one case that I know, and it was important for me to comment on.
Let me come to you, Kufo, SK Kufo. 6.5 billion francs. Do you see it enough as subvention, given that the lay private schools assist the government to educate Cameroonians? Because you know the law, you know the government is supposed to educate its citizens.
Thank you very much, Mr. William. I want to emphasize, I want to join voice with Dr. Bushu, to say the government of President Buea should be applauded for that initiative. When good things are being done, we should give credit to it. And when bad ones are being done, we should oppose and resist it with all our strength. I want to say it was a good human face to give that amount of money at a dire moments like this. The C-19 has brought the world to a standstill. It has brought the world to a non-movable dimension where everyone is crying and everyone is looking up to God. And if the government that has pushed the agenda for the resumption of school, which was something that was totally against the popular opinion of Cameroonian citizens. When you follow the news, you follow opinion polls and leaders, you get to understand that there was a lot of skepticism in respect to the resumption of schools. Most parents question the logic and rationale behind school resumptions, and the ministers have to come down to give the best of their proposals in respect to examination classes. And we saw school going back. I want to come with the point of Dr. Bushu that giving the money out is a applaudable move that we should encourage. But now, what is this money specifically meant for? We are in a country that I want to describe that most of the time we get giveaway as audio money because we don't see the money manifesting the purpose of which it was meant to. We want to say when citizen money is being used, the citizens should be able to see the reflection of that money. They should be able to feel the impact of their taxpayers' money. I want to come back here, I was distant a little bit with my good friend Ngoh. I was distant with our panelist, Mr. Ngoh, to ask on this question that every institution have internal rules on governance and management. And if you are not sitting on that hot seat as a manager or a director in an institution, you can't tell the day-to-day running affairs in that institution. For they say, uneasy lies a head that wears the crown. It is he who is putting on the shoes that knows where the shoe pinches the most.
If I understand the contradiction between you people now, just like somebody said, if you have the right to eat a loaf of bread, but it is not giving you, then half is giving you. How do you analyze this?
You'll be driving me away from the point I'm struggling to analyze. I want to say you're bringing an African parable of which it may have diverse interpretation if I have to look into. So permit me proceed with what I was saying, sir. What I am beginning to tell you is that subvention is given. Like companies themselves have subventions from the government. And when subvention is given, it should be managed in the best interest of that institution that money has been given. Subvention is being given so that an institution should not crumble. Subvention is more like subsidies that encourages and pushes you to keep it up. Like what Dr. Bushu said, that you made it that the state is responsible to educate its citizens.
Yes.
So if the lay private school has come in to assist,
yes.
That is why in daily moments like this, the government is coming up to make them not to back off from that patriotic stand of view they have taken to push the nation forward and increase the degree of learned people or the literacy rate in that country.
Okay.
So I want to say that it is applaudable. But at this moment, we allow the head of those various institutions that are going to receive the money. They have been running their institution. They know what is needed and what is lacking. All what we want to say is that the government should put an eye that this money that is being given should be appropriately spent. And if definitely there has to be anything, there should be a full board of auditors to see that that money is put into use. There's a difference for money to disappear in an account, and the money goes to function in the world of reality.
Okay.
So we want to see the money function in the dead purposes that school is lacking. The government has given it to revamp and to revive those schools that will be going towards extinction or non-existence again.
So,
yes,
let me
if I ask the question.
Yes. I want to say that such monies, when given by the state, by the government, is like a kind of incentive.
Okay.
Incentive,
to boost you.
Yes, incentive in such a way that such money is to boost the morale of the schools. So it's an incentive that's been given by the President of the Republic to this school. My own problem here is when we talk of education for all,
yes,
every child has the right for education. And when you look at the case of Cameroon, especially in the northwest and southwest region, many children are still not going to school, especially children in the suburb, especially children in the periphery, where gun battles are there on daily basis. How is this money going to reach some of these places? Who will be accountable? Because when we talk of subventions, incentives, we should bring out the issue of accountability. Schools can only function when the heads, the school proprietors, the administrators, the managers of schools are accountable, and the government too is accountable. Because schools cannot function when there's no accountability. Money will be given, yes. Can we trace? Because with schools we should talk about the input, the processes, and the output. Now money is given as an input. Are we going to see the processes? Because who are those involved in the processes? The teachers. Will they benefit from the largesse of this money? For us to see the output from the students' academic performance and academic success and holistic growth in the mind and personality. So the issue is that there are some group of children who are not even going to school in this country, in the northwest and southwest, especially the Anglophone crisis. How are they going to benefit? Because most of their schools are not even ongoing. We know of schools in suburbs, especially my own school, my village. There are schools in my village that are totally not functional. Grasses all over, and most of these students have traveled to other francophone regions of the country and they are schooling. So are we saying that there will be kind of regional balance in such subvention? Who will benefit, who will not benefit? If there was effective decentralization, such monies will be distributed equitably and people will benefit, especially the special status. That's when we can know that this amount will be given to this region, this amount given to this region. But at such a moment in time, this money will enter, but will not even see where the money will affect the needs of this school. And these teachers will still keep on lamenting, because teachers are over lamenting in this country. Teachers don't receive any good salary in this country. They are lamenting, and they are molding students, because education comes from the word educate, to raise. Teachers raise children, they bring them up, but they still suffer a lot. So some school administrators will even take this money, and teachers will not enjoy the effect of this money. So I feel that the government have to follow up. There should be a level of accountability. The school administrators have to be accountable for this money, and also the school managers should be accountable, and the proprietors of schools, mission and lay private schools, should be accountable, and they should be put on tax.
How can these people be accountable when, you know, there was a time, let me come today, there was a time a few years back when it was suggested by the former minister of education that private schools, lay private schools, should be sending their salaries through the ministry. Then maybe they add the subvention there and pay the teachers, but it was denied because they realized that the schools were not paying the teachers well. But yet this still continues. How do you look at this, that the government was unable to take such a decision? We have teachers who even receive 20,000 francs to teach in a school. Then they call it take-home package, which cannot even take them home.
Mr. Mambo, it starts with me. If you ask me how much I pay those who work with me, the answer is that it's very low. Sometimes I ask myself, if I was in their place, how can I cope with that amount that I give them? But faced with reality, no one can hide his face.
Yeah.
The government himself is not a very good example. Primary school teachers, policemen, how much do they drive back? Let's even focus just on primary school teachers, because it's believed in other countries primary school teachers earn more than secondary school teachers.
That's why it is called Cameroon.
Yes. So from that backdrop, we should say that the government is not a very good example to point to lay private that please treat your teachers well. But let's come back a bit to this issue.
Yeah.
I have a problem when we pamper the government in the one hand and turn around and expect that they can do miracle in management. Accountability, transparency, responsibility. If we really sit one day and we're expecting it from this government, then we are insulting the people who spend their time they are watching at this program. Because corruption has eaten deep. It has gone from a simple gangrene to a canker worm, to a cancer. That is the level where we are.
That's serious.
And nothing is expected again. I'm not fallacious. I'm not pessimistic. I'm simple, real.
Okay.
We are talking about 6.5 billion. That sounds to be a lot of money, but it's nothing. When they will start drawing you the itinerary that this money will take, just fuel from Yaoundé to Marwa, it's simple thing that they could decentralize and send by bank.
Okay.
No, they will have to play their brothers and sister relationship. I send to your bank, you cut the charges that you want to cut, you send to the other bank. Simple things that there was more like this. You want to see just the bank charges, you'll be taking 1 billion. And there's no way you can explain, you have justification for those things. That's why I'm telling you that we are not working with Sunday school children. We are not working with priesthoods that you will even believe that they will be the fear of God. Once I've said that, I want to also say that there is also a category we should not leave out. Vocational schools are also part of this money.
Yeah.
Because we have vocational schools that fall within the armpit of where they go some kind of secondary school level, and then they do apprenticeship. Yes. So normally, all these restaurants, a garage, were supposed if we're really dealing with a serious government.
Yeah.
Because when you go there, you see children, young adults, between the age, adolescent even.
Yeah.
Those are the people who need support. Because some don't have transport. They trek for long distances. Some work there for 6 years, waiting to be compensated at the end of that period of time. Within that time frame, how do they fit? I'm also saying that they are also part of it. The arrêté that the minister signed had this, they talk of this group of people. Mm-hmm. So how would their money reach them? That most of their workshop are not registered with the government. The government only cater for those
that are well known.
That should be known by everybody. But again, the government policy put in place has not put an accompanying measure to help those who are in the informal sector to transit to the formal sector. I personally, I would never recommend somebody who start up a venture and has not broken even to register. You are registering for what? What will you be reporting for taxes? Because most of those who start up like us, we are in the global tax regime. We don't have an overall turnover that is above 10 million. Some are even struggling below 5 million. So you will register that you have not broken even, that your workers, how much do they earn? How much do you pay the fixed charges? That all those things are put. I don't want to drag out of the topic. All I'm trying to put here as a fact is that it's rather unfortunate that the greater majority of those who are supposed to benefit from this money might not benefit simply because they are not recognized by the government, and by so doing they were in legitimacy to benefit, but they will not benefit.
Mr. Moderator, permit me add something that my learned friend here have said, which is very important. If you look at the Good and Strategic paper, the Good and Strategic paper that the Cameroon government has ignored for a long time, you'll see that what this politician, Mr. Ngoh, whom I respect, is saying is very correct. And when you look at apprenticeship, the vocational training centers falls under the non-formal system. They fall under non-formal because we have different types of education. Yeah. We have the informal education that takes place at home. We have the non-formal that takes place in the garages with skills, where you see skills, aptitude, where you see children gain skills and competencies and they gain employability. Yeah. And you have the formal sector in an institution like the school, formal school like the university, primary school, and secondary schools. So I want to say that the non-formal sectors are being abandoned in this country. I've carried out research on it, duly researched. I've published 2 papers on international journals of science, social sciences abroad on apprenticeship. And you see that these are sectors that can help bring about the sustainable development goal, because they work with skills and they transform. But the job shadow through experiences where there's an expert and there's a novice, and the experts scaffold, coach the novices to gain skills, and during this process they need resources to manage their garages, and most of them are registered. And when you go to, you have the ministry, the regional delegation here in Buea, you have the regional delegation of employment and vocational training, which protects the interests of these non-formal sectors, and the Ministry of Vocational Training and Employment that protects these sectors. I want to say that the government should not forget this sector too, because it's very important for the growth of the country. And when you look at the Ministry of Security, Social Security, that ministry is not protecting the interests of people in this country, because there are people who are not duly paid. They are not well paid in this country, and the ministry is not really playing its function. And I think that the ministry has to protect. We know of children who are nannies, and you see people have taken people's children, and for long they don't even take care of their needs. So the Ministry of Security is supposed to protect the interests of these teachers.
That's why I wanted to come to dear viewers, you keep on sending your messages. We shall read them. We have already received so many, so we shall read them at the end of the topic. Let me come, to add to what you have to say. He has said something which is very important. Okay, yeah. Now, what does the law say? Because in most cases, just like teachers of lay private will be afraid to go to labor and social, because there's a kind of game that is being played and so on. In the end, you lose your job.
It is easy to blame. The game of blaming is an easy aspect, and they say it's easier said than done.
Yes.
And when you finally accomplish a task, every person will see it like it was something easy for any person to accomplish.
Okay.
We are talking here about managerial aspects and governance. If we are looking at things, we don't look things from one-sided coin. To look at the both sides of the coin.
Yeah.
I will not want to dive into that, for it may be an academic discourse. Let me go to what Dr. Bushu said about the workers lack protection.
Okay.
To a far extent, he's right. But now we are looking at a country that most employers seems to be doing favors to employees. There is a limited wage standard that has been passed by the government, that no person should be paid below that amount. It's something 36,842 francs. We get people earning 15,000 francs. It's simple. If you are not contented, you go to the labor office and they sack you. So you look at situations, so you have to put 2 things into consideration. The labor office will follow it up. The employer will say, I don't need you again. What will you do?
And at times the employer refused to sign contracts.
It's okay. You see, Mr. Mama, what we are saying here, right? That's why I started saying that when you sit there to govern, you see what the governance entails. It is different today. If you're not sitting as a manager, you see flaws. When you become a manager here, right, you see what your predecessor used to do, and you feel like you will do your own amendment, but you still also have flaws that other people will complain about. What we are seeing here is that we are living with a government that I want to say unemployment is one of the highest things the government has not tackled in the regime under President Buea. Where we see we have a very high rate of youthful population, not useless youthful population, but useful youthful population, because we have a high degree of literacy rate within Cameroon youths, but they are highly unemployed. So we see reasons here that when private stake individuals are coming into the employment market, they see it as doing favor to those they are employing. And anytime you revolt against them, it seems like you are an ingrate. They have done you a favor to make sure you can have a meal to eat at home, and now you are taking them back to that same law that has failed to make the country to be on a standardized ground that every person could be reasonably employed in such a way that laws could be passed and could be respected.
Say, SK Kufo, are you saying that because you are a practitioner in that field, are you saying that you people have no strength? Because if we look at it, let's look at the situation of Wazizi. We find some of your colleagues, they are so hot about it. But there are so many teachers who have gone to the labor office and their matters have gone to court, and we see no lawyers running behind that. Is it like there's no popularity in that?
Sir, a lawyer is much of a businessman. You hire a lawyer, you consult a lawyer to take your matter personal. But it's like Kea and Ewule, before coming into the Wazizi case, they were briefed. So you don't expect that because you're a teacher, you have not been paid, and you go to along the corridors of the court, and the lawyer should just jump into you to see how he starts to help you out. But one thing I am telling you is that I just want to put this question back to you, right? If you report your employer and he sacks you, do you expect the court to force him to retain you if he says that he does not have a vacancy or you don't have use again in his company? It's a simple question. Just answer me. Will you? Can somebody force you on an employer?
Okay. Dear viewers, we shall briefly go to the second part of this, but let us just read a few messages. Greetings to the studio. What an interesting program, but please, what is the man in the mask? Maybe this viewer wants to see the handsome man behind the mask. So, so the person is so interested to see the person behind the mask. Okay, this one's a good evening. I'm Nancy from Buea town. I am a teacher by profession. The money that has been debunked by the government will be embezzled by the hierarchy. This is not the first time such happens. Thanks for sharing. I don't know if somebody has something to say. Yes, briefly, just briefly.
What the viewer is saying, I think that will not debunk against that, because we know of issues of corruption in this country. People have embezzled such money and put in their private funds. So what we are saying in their private coffers is not new. But what we are pleading is that the lay private school teachers are suffering because they are psychologically suffering. They are in pain. They cannot help their family. They are in dissonance. They are in trauma. Okay. And I think that for this more than 3 months now, they have not been paid salary. I know of neighbors who are working in the lay private, they have not been paid salary. I know how difficult it is to manage your home. Parenthood is not easy. And I think that the needs of teachers need to be addressed. Okay. In this country, Cameroon today, many teachers are suffering. They are not enjoying the largesse of this country because they are grooming our children for nation building. Even the president was taught by a teacher. Even the ministers were taught by teachers. Even school heads were taught by teachers. And I feel that President Paul Biya one time saw his headmaster or his teacher when he went for the agri show, and he respected the teachers.
Somebody says they are doing the work of God.
I feel that these teachers should be respected. People, they have family responsibility. When you talk like that, Mr. Mwambo.
As if somebody says so, and it was made by a statement that they should be devoted because they are doing
human rights in this country, and the rights of teachers should be protected by the Ministry of Social Security.
Okay.
I also wanted just to add one small
Yes,
thing.
please.
If I miss this opportunity, that is, sometimes you see me hitting hard on this denominational school is not just because I have a profound hatred against it. Okay. Can you believe that amidst this COVID-19, there are some denominational schools that force their teachers to be coming to school and sit like this throughout the day just because the government forced them to be paying salary?
That's where we are coming.
They were to give them half of the salary.
That's where we are coming.
Every morning you have to bathe, come to school, sit like this, just because they don't want you to focus on any other thing. That's it.
Okay. Xavier was this one saying, I wonder if this money will reach the various schools without the government touching it. It's Julius from Buea. Okay, it's still the same, my dear. This good evening in the studio. I'm Mary Jane from Moliko. I'm really enjoying the show. Okay, we shall be coming back to other messages. You just continue sending your messages. I just want us to talk briefly on this. We see some, let me say, cabinet reshuffle as far as the Catholic University Institute of the Diocese of Buea, and we see that is causing a kind of chaotic atmosphere. We'll just get to the points because we have no time. Yes.
Thank you so much for that question, and sorry for starting with me. I want to say that the Catholic University was created by Bishop Emmanuel Bushu.
Yeah.
That was on the 17th of April 2009. Mm-hmm. It means that that institution is less than 20 years old. Mm-hmm. Should I say 11? Yes. And when he created it, one young man came up and almost took it like his own property. Reverend Father Nkeze. I know personally we have a lot of courtesy. We have met so many times over sister media. He was in total fraternity. He was happy, congratulated us for the work we are doing. But we want to say that we do it. Everybody that stand by the margin of justice will be bullet. And so today is his own case. He took it as his own personal property with his clique, and the Catholic University was almost moving out of the canon of the Catholic principles. He brought in a lot of innovation that I cannot deny, but principally the mission was to protect and advance human dignity, to promote cultural heritage through research, teaching, services to the society, period. Every other thing that was added, all those other gymnastics that was played around was not the purpose for which that church was created. And he did not end there. So many people, I personally, I have gone for